So you get your hop yard in, and those hops are growing well, and you get some delicious looking cones there. What's next? And that's what we're going to spend an hour here talking to you about, because it's easy to talk about growing stuff, it's easy to grow stuff, but then what? You end up with a harvest, and it's time to go. So real briefly, you'll hear different hop forms thrown around. You'll hear the term wet hops, fresh hops, dried whole leaf hops, and pelletized hops. Anyway, wet hops are a form of hops that are literally harvested and immediately used. And we're talking they have to be used very quickly, preferably within 24 hours, 48 hours, and then you're running into trouble. You'll hear the term fresh hop bandied about. Fresh hop is kind of an ambiguous term, and it kind of means fresh crop, I think, that those hops have been harvested, dried, and are used soon, either in dried whole leaf hop form or pelletized form. And I'm going to leave that to our next couple of presenters from the Guild to do it. Wet hop beers are something you probably didn't hear much of a few years ago. They're becoming more popular. A brewer down in Cincinnati likes to call them the last true seasonal beer, because you can buy a pumpkin beer right now. You don't have to wait till October to come around. You can buy Oktoberfest right now. You can get Bock all year long. But it's bottom line what you see. Fresh hops picked, put in late in the boil, adds a different sort of texture and flavor to the beer. It can be used in a lot of beer styles. Pale ales, IPAs, Belgians, wilds, there's all sorts of things. It requires by weight a whole lot more hops, because you still got all that water weight in there. So essentially like a 10-barrel batch of beer might take 20 to 30 pounds. A 30-barrel would take 3 times that much. There is limited demand for this. This is not how you're going to sell all of your hops. Maybe your first year, but after that. But it is a good way to sell hops, because you eliminate all of your processing. You pick them, you deliver them. There's no handling, no processing taking place in there, and there you go. With all of our hops, I would just throw this up there as a marketing advantage for Ohio hops. They're local. They're not coming from Oregon. You got locavores very interested in it. They are fresh. They have been delivered so quickly. You can work with the brewer. The brewer can work with you. They can visit your hop yard. That counts for a lot for the craft brewing community. We have found here a lot of people are very concerned about the environment. Your carbon footprint from your farm to their brewery is a whole lot less than from Yakima to their brewery. And you've just eliminated that transportation cost. Here's some considerations for you, and this doesn't just go for wet hops, this goes for dry hops as well, pelletized, however you're selling them. But stuff for you to think about, because you get a lot of academic stuff up here. We're growing and selling, and we want to just kind of share some things with you, because we were out there in the audience 2 years ago. You need to find a brewer, and for wet hops, one who wants to brew a fresh or wet hop beer. Last year, I think maybe 5 brewers did it in Ohio. This year, over 30 brewers did it in Ohio. Somebody stuck their toe in the water first, and now other people are like, hey, the water's fine, come on in. It's increasing numbers, hopefully it'll increase. A lot of brewers have not done this before. They don't know how to, but they're sharing that knowledge too, and they see other people doing it. Brewers like to experiment with styles, so I think that's a plus for us. There are some considerations you need to make with a brewer, is finding that brewer first, and honestly, you need to be doing that now. They have a tight production schedule of what they're brewing on what day of what week of what month throughout the rest of the year, if they're an experienced brewer or even a new brewer, because you got to have a plan, and they have a business and you have a business, so you need to be talking now and start figuring out what they're looking for, and if you're growing that or not, or can they be creative and use a different one. There's a lot of flexibility out there in terms of brewing, and this is a time for you to start doing that. But I'm going to emphasize to you expectation management. You may think your hops are going to be ready at the end of August, and they might be ready at the 1st of August, because it's a crazy winter or a crazy spring. Things start sprouting early, the summer makes them mature faster, or they may not come in until September. You can't control the maturity date of their hops. They can control their brewing schedule, but you got to make those two things come together. You've got to think about how are you going to pick, how are you going to deliver. And your first year, you may pick by hand, and after that, you'll regret it. You might be heading for the divorce court, or all of your friends have disappeared and they don't ever want to talk to you again. So, again, it's already been emphasized a few times. It's not just about growing it, it's about how do you get rid of it? How do you make some money off of this? So you've got to think through those things. And this is going to be ultimately a small portion of your crop. And what are you going to do with the rest of it? That's why they're going to talk up here about some more stuff. In general, who are you going to sell to? Who do you want to sell to? You know, you might have some breweries that you want to target specifically. Who's most likely to buy your product? My wife and I last year at this time kind of identified 6 brewers, figuring if we targeted 6, we'd be lucky to get one. And newer, smaller brewers within a couple, 30 miles of our house, places that we had gone out drinking. And that we targeted them because newer brewers, smaller brewers need your hops and probably are more willing to use your hops in a lot of cases than a Great Lakes because they're at the bottom of the hops food chain. They, a lot of times, can do a lot of very creative stuff. They're not distributing, they're not canning, bottling, maybe even kegging. Everything's a taproom special, and they'll do that kind of creative stuff. That's not 100%, but that's an impression that we've got. And so we introduced ourselves through letters and mail, sent them some marketing stuff we'd put together. We had drank beer at their breweries. We'd met most of them before. 3 of them we heard back from. One of them not even brewing yet. They were hoping to be brewing by the fall. Didn't happen. They're going to open up sometime in the next few months. Another one we were all set to do. Harvest came early. Their production schedule couldn't shift. Third one we brewed with. And probably will sell to all 3 this year because I'm a fan of getting rid of it fresh because you probably get more return on your investment for selling, a better price, and less processing and hassle of doing that. To close that deal, how do you do it? You're probably thinking, oh, how am I going to sell these hops? Right. If you're targeting those guys, drink their beer and let them know you're drinking it. Quick response. They're busy. I mean, I'm busy, you're busy, but they're busy and they're the customer. So good customer service, right? Respond to them quickly. We have found a huge selling point is to get a brewer into your hop yard. Brewers, I have found, know very little about hops. It's a thing that comes in a vacuum-packed Mylar thing with they're pelletized and that's that, and they got some numbers on the outside, and they know what to do with that. But there is some romance for them being in the hop yard and some fascination, and it's a good thing. And it's good for their marketing because we've seen across Ohio a lot of brewers use that in their marketing, and they put it on their Facebook page and they tweet it out and stuff. And it's a chance for you to show your expertise as it develops. If you're brand new to this, you have no expertise, but you'll get it quick. 1 year, you will get a lot of expertise. Visit their brewery, keep that conversation going. The question came up about contracting. I'm not comfortable contracting. I haven't been doing this long enough. I don't know how much I'm going to get. And they're not really comfortable either. The handshake deal was fine for us. And it will depend on your situation. And as time goes by, maybe some of the other growers in the guild have contracted. But you work that out. And how do we use your hop yard in their marketing plan? Let's talk about pricing real quick. You are going to be in business trying to make some money. You've got to figure that out. Your time is money. You've got money invested in that trellis system and pesticides and fertilizers and equipment and stuff. But you have to deal with market forces. Please don't undersell yourself. Because kind of if you undersell yourself, you're kind of undercutting other people too if brewers are talking. There has been a wide price range on wet hops in Ohio, dry hops as well. I think most of us have found brewers are willing to pay a slight premium for Ohio-grown hops if they are quality because they're Ohio-grown hops. Hops are a small portion of the cost of a barrel of beer relative to everything else. And if they're getting a burst of fresh flavor and it's a local product and people love local products, et cetera, that they'll probably pay you a slight premium. If you need a sense of how much other people are getting, I know in the guild we talk to each other. Hey, what are you getting? Hey, what are you getting? Hey, what are you getting? There is a website, Lupulin Exchange, to give you some idea of dry hop prices. It's a pretty good resource. It's typically brewers or brokers who are, it's like sort of a Craigslist of hops. What's out there by variety, what crop year, how many pounds they got available can kind of help you out. As a new grower, what are your points of failure likely to be? The question came up about how do I know when to pick? There is an art and a science to it. And if you've ever raised hay, you know when your hay is dry and you know when your hay isn't. If you put up your hay wet, it's gonna mold and mildew, and it could catch fire, right? If you let it go a little bit too long, it gets bleached out, and it loses some food value to it when you do that. After a year or two, you will pick up on the art of it when it's got the right feel to it. I would recommend this summer, find a local hop grower through the Hop Guild and give them a call and go out and visit them when they're getting ready to harvest. And I would feel sure that most of us would be more than happy to kind of take you through it. Last year, my brewers came out, they wanted to pick. They wanted pictures and stuff to say that they had done part of that. And I lined up 6 hop cones in order of, don't pick this one because it's way too early, and don't pick that one because it's way too late, and these are the ones that are just right. Also, on the internet, you'll find several different universities have a thing in there on weighing them wet, completely drying them down in a food dryer or a microwave, and weighing them again and doing some math and using that. I think that's your best technique because you really need to pick at the right time. It's generally in the 22% moisture range, and again, go to that. I think Michigan State has it, Vermont. Search for that on the internet and do that. If you pick too early, you're going to create a spinach-flavored beer for that brewer, and they're going to be pissed because you have ruined a batch of beer for them that they won't be able to sell. If you pick too late and they use your hops because they trusted you to sell them good hops, it's going to taste like Limburger, and they're not going to be happy because you've just, unless they can market it as cheese-flavored beer or something. If you pick and you don't deliver fast enough, or if you pick and the brewer lets them sit around for 4 or 5 days, they're going to begin decomposing, and it's going to create off flavors in that beer. So there's got to be good communication and teaching. As you learn about hops, assume your brewer knows very, very little, because at least right now, fresh hops, they know very, very little because they've not done it before. Communication will be crucial for you. And packaging and delivery, how do you get that there to them? We use big, what I would call an onion bag to do it, keep some air circulation going, and deliver it directly. Not in the back of a pickup truck where highway dust and fumes are getting into it, whether you got to put it in a tub or the back of, in just something to get it there to them. So my recommendations to kind of wrap up the wet hop portion is you got to become a hops expert. You got to know as much as you can from the University of Google and attending things like this, and talking to other growers who are ahead of you in experience and knowledge, and learn as much as you can. Read books, there's stuff out there. Get your brewer in your hop yard to build that relationship, to demonstrate how much you know, to work that out in terms of timing so that the harvest schedule and the production schedule meet up at the right time for a wet hop brew, and encourage them to use the marketing angle to help sell their beer. And I would recommend, if you're not growing yet, at this time next year, February, March is when you need to start doing that. It's the off season, but this is the time to start doing those. They need to lock that in and know that they've got that stuff coming. Don't promise what you can't deliver. If you're too small, link up with another brewer. The Clown Shoes, which you all hopefully drank, although it was wrong of us to do that in here, was a collaboration of a number of growers in Ohio who all contributed to produce this delicious batch of beer. Start small for both of your sake. Don't, a 30-barrel batch of a wet hop, if they've never done it before, might not be a good idea for them or for you. Team up, but don't sell garbage to them. Please don't do that, because it ruins your reputation, and sadly, by extension, it kind of casts a spell across all of us who are trying to do this. Expectation management. Talk to them. Make sure they understand it. I'm just going to take you through a couple quick slides of our experience. Our brewers from Urban Artifact in Cincinnati, started talking to them February last year, did all what I was talking about. They were out in the hop yard in July, a couple weeks before harvest, inspecting stuff and tweeting it out, put it on their Facebook page. We picked and went down there and dumped it in the thing, and they named it Calliope. It was a Belgian wild Grand Cru Ale is what they called it. It's been on at the tap room. They're about out. It's been on 7 or 8 different restaurants and bars around Cincinnati. And it is good, as Mike said last time, to drink the beer that you grew the hops for it. And it's a great marketing thing for them. It's good for us. But a lot to learn as you are figuring out here, and you're drinking from the fire hose. But that is an option.